Hiya! Welcome to LSB Feasters Radio Channel, where we keep great radio from the past alive. Today, we are going to Boston and the Dean of Talk Radio. I'm talking about Jerry Williams. Jerry spent most of his life on the radio doing talk radio, rabble-rousing, and just pretty much stirring the pot. Jerry came to Boston from WIBG in Philadelphia in the late 1950s to go to work at WMEX. He spent many years there until he got the call to go to Chicago. And he went to WBBM, where he did talk radio for a short period till the station flipped format to all news. He went back to Boston and then spent many years on WBZ. After he left WBZ, he had to deal with a non-compete, so he spent some time in Hartford and Philadelphia, but he came back to Boston and he spent many years on WRKO. Jerry was really good at what he did, and I'm telling you, he did not mind stirring things up one bit. If you haven't heard the Dean of Talk Radio, check him out. It's Jerry Williams on WBZ Boston.
2 men under arrest tonight after a small disturbance in Mattapan. Police saying a fight broke out near the District 3 station after more than 30 persons gathered and began pelting police with rocks. No serious injuries occurred. Is nothing sacred anymore? Consider this from Art Gardner.
The state tax collectors have spotted some new frozen assets to fill their near-empty coffers, namely popsicles and ice cream cups sold by an estimated 1,000 vendors across the state. State Tax Commissioner Owen Clark sent some of his revenues to the Happy Times Ice Cream Company in Cambridge recently and handed overdue tax bills to the popsicle vendors who are loading up their push carts with the frozen goodies. The bills call for an 8% meal tax charge for the popsicles and cups. One of the vendors, Eli Shearer of Newton, decided to file suit in Suffolk Superior Court, asking the court to overrule the tax commissioner's move by declaring that a popsicle is not a meal and a push cart or a truck or a bicycle carrying them is not a restaurant. The lad's attorney and father, Robert Shearer, told Judge James Lynch today that the imposition of a meal tax for the frozen goodies would seriously affect the livelihood of the vendors, and the kids would have to pay at least 5 cents more for the popular popsicle. The bill attached to the ice cream vendor's truck or bicycles, concluded the attorney, will be tolling a new source of an unfair tax revenue for the state. Superior Court Judge Lynch ordered a speedy hearing for the 16th of August. Art Gardner, WBZ News, Suffolk Superior Court.
WBZ News Time, 11:04.
There's a word that means something special from Dairy Queen. All you have to do is say the word, say the word.
This Thursday and Friday, participating Dairy Queen Brazier stores are selling their nearly a foot long and topped with chili Super Brazier chili dog for just 49 cents. All you have to do is know what to say.
Scrumptious.
You knew that.
Dairy Queen.
In sports, Doyle Alexander pitched a 3-hitter, all coming in the 9th inning, as the Yankees clobbered the Red Sox 9-1 at Yankee Stadium. Until the 9th, Alexander allowed only 3 base runners on walks, 2 to Carlton Fisk, 1 to Fred Lynn, but Rick Burleson led off the night, hitting the first pitch into right field for a base hit. Burleson went to second base, passed on a ball, then Fred Lynn. Fred Lynn knocked him in with a single to right. Carl Yastrzemski followed with a base hit. Bill Lee was pounded for 6 runs in 5 innings he worked. The big guns for the Yankees were Fred Stanley with 3 runs batted in, and Craig Nettles. The Yankees got their other runs off Dick Pole. Other games tonight in the American League, Cleveland over Detroit 9-4. After 12, Baltimore and Milwaukee still tied at 2 apiece. After 5, the White Sox leading Minnesota 2-0. Kansas City at Oakland just getting underway. In the National League, Cincinnati over Atlanta 3-1. Philadelphia clobbering Pittsburgh 11-1. After 10, Montreal and the Mets tied at 2 apiece. In their 8th, San Francisco ahead of Houston 3-0. After 7, Chicago leading St. Louis 4-3. Another Major League manager has followed the footsteps of Darrell Johnson. Paul Olden reports.
The California Angels have fired manager Dick Williams. The top brass, owner Gene Autry, Vice President Red Patterson, and General Manager Harry Dalton all agreed on the move to relieve Williams of the Angel helm. Third base coach Norm Sherry takes over the club on an interim basis starting tomorrow with the doubleheader with Texas at Anaheim. Williams, with a long history of winning with Boston and Oakland, could not win in Southern California. Last place in 1974, last place in 75, last place here in 1976. And it was felt his relationship, or lack of it, with the Angels' many young players led to his demise today. Paul Holden, Los Angeles.
The weather for Boston, cloudy, occasional rain, and overnight low in the 60s. Tomorrow, occasional rain in the early morning hours, followed by thunderstorms by afternoon, a high in the middle 80s. Saturday night, clearing, less humid, low in the 60s, and Sunday sunny and pleasant with a high near 80. It's now 72 on Soldiers Field Road. Tonight's winning lottery number, 4567. Tonight's winning lottery number, 4567. The hour's top story, one of 3 men being sought in connection with the kidnapping of more than 24 schoolchildren in California last weekend has surrendered. 22-year-old Richard Schoenfeld turning himself into the Alameda County Sheriff's Office with his lawyers. That's the 11 o'clock WBZ News with portions recorded. Listo Fisher with an invitation to share a few hours each week with a fatherless boy in your area. For more information, call the Big Brothers Association at 426-1237. Now a BZ editorial with Lamont L. Thompson, Vice President of BZ Radio and TV.
We all pay the bills for our government, and in theory our government is supposed to represent us. But more and more people just feel frustrated with it. One reason being that there are so many agencies and programs to contend with and also to pay for. At last count, the federal government had 83 housing programs, 156 income security and social service programs, 228 health programs, almost 1,000 in all. And running them were 11 cabinet departments, 44 independent agencies, and over 1,200 boards, committees, commissions, and councils. This proliferation carries down to the state level as well. Some of these agencies work at cross purposes. Others seem to have lost their original purpose, but all go on, and we keep paying. There's no magic solution to this situation, but there is a growing movement to try tackling the problem through so-called sunset laws. These would put a definite termination date on programs, and that would force a periodic review. And with some public prodding, those which cannot justify themselves would go down like the setting sun. Colorado started the sunset concept with a law applying to its regulatory agencies. Senator Muskie of Maine is the leading sponsor of national legislation, which he wants applied to all federal programs. That may be too ambitious right off, but the sunset law makes sense. We think it should be put to use as quickly as possible, both in Washington and here on the state level as well. What do you think?
More of Jerry Williams.
254-5678, 254-5678, 254-5678, 254-5678.
254-5678.
Hello, America. This is Jerry Williams. This is the fourth and final hour here on WBZ Radio for this week, Friday, July 23rd, 1976, and the lines are open. And the first couple of hours we had with us Bishop Abu Jadi from Lebanon, who represents the Maronites. He was very interesting and exciting and told us about the Lebanese situation. Now we're kind of drifting during the next hour. And if you'd like to drift a bit with us, we're happy to have you at 254-5678. The lines are open, and we're happy to discuss anything and everything with you here on WBZ Radio. We'll wait for your calls, and then we'll get underway at area code 617. $1 million furniture sellout now, right now, at Goldberg Furniture, 70 Monroe Street in Lynn, announcing the only major sale in their 73-year history. A $1 million retirement sale. This sale held now, as all 5 floors of famous brand furniture, Thomasville, Burlington House, Hale, Strato Lounger, and Beauty Rest are to be sold off piece by piece without reservations at savings of 30, 40, even 50% off. Goldberg has never and will never hold a sale of this magnitude again. Living rooms originally $599, now $308. Nationally advertised Osteopedic mattresses originally $129, now $78. Maple bedrooms by Harris originally $599, now $388. Goldberg Furniture, North Shore's most respected furniture house, known for quality and service, now breaking all price barriers, as $1 million in furniture is sacrificed during this retirement sale. Goldberg Furniture, 70 Monroe Street, Lynn, open daily 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. credit terms arranged, free delivery, and lighted parking. Now we begin this hour with your calls and comments at 254-5678. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, you're on the air.
Thank you. I called up, first of all, because I had heard that gentleman talk about that we needed another party besides Republican and Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I disagreed with him. I think exactly what you said, that there has to be people come into the parties, whichever party it may be, that bring something different. Of course, he said that we need some businessmen. And it brought to mind, and I ran and got the paper, because yesterday in the Brockton Enterprise was quite a write-up about a fellow by the name of Bernard Shannon. And he's running on the Democratic ticket for the United States Senate against Mr. Kennedy. And, I mean, I was interested in reading about him because I wasn't satisfied, as it went on with Mr. Kennedy. And then that brought me to the next caller, who happened to be a woman while I've been laying here listening, waiting for my turn, that said that she thought that, why hadn't Mr. Kennedy had more, what would you say, I don't know the right word, but in other words, that the convention didn't give him the spotlight. And I feel just the opposite. I was off on Mr. John F. Kennedy. I thought he made a very fine president. But I also feel, as a Massachusetts voter, that the people of this state have to let what Mr. John F. Kennedy did, respect him for what he did, but that's the end of it. I don't think it has anything to do with Ted Kennedy. And I think probably the people of the convention feel the same way, because I don't see why, just because Ted Kennedy was from Massachusetts, other people from other parts of the country that do have senators or representatives there, they also needed a chance to be able to give the nomination speeches and one thing and another. And as I say, I think that right now we're in a time in Massachusetts where we need a tremendous change here. We have so many dissatisfied people, we can't even get them out to come to the polls to vote. And I guess that's about all that really I had to say.
Okay, that's good. That's well said, and I thank you very much. It's 11:14 on WBZ. Open lines at 254-5678. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
Yes.
I wanted to make a comment about Mr. Carter. You seem to intimate that you have an unsure feeling about him, the same as you had about Nixon. And I have too. But the only thing that I hold on to very tightly is that Mr. Nixon, from the very beginning, had dirty dealings and dirty things that he did. I mean, even as a congressman in California. Do you concur?
Yes, I was not a fan of Mr. Nixon from day number one.
Neither was I. I changed my residence in order to vote against him and stay in California. But I do think that this is not true of Carter. I mean, at least they haven't been able to pin anything on him in Georgia. Have they, or have they not?
Well, there are some people who would allege that in the 1970 campaign for governor that that dirty tactics were used by the Carter people.
I didn't realize that. The only thing that scared me was when they panned around on the night of the acceptance speech. They showed his assistants, and their faces were very much of the ilk of Haldeman and Ehrlichman and all the rest of them. That scared me when I looked at them. They all looked filled with purpose at any price, and I was very upset about seeing them that close too.
Well, I saw those folks when they were here in our studio about 4 or 5 months ago in February, and I saw the same thing that you saw, this, dedication and devotion to the man.
Yes.
No principles or ideals involved, the dedication to winning, and actually that's what those people are employed for, to win. That's the name of the game. The name of the game now is winning. If you think there is any other purpose to campaigns, you're mistaken. The name of the game is to win at any cost, the means do justify the end, particularly if you win.
Well, it's shattering, because I don't know where to go with my vote, as many of your callers don't know where to go with
Well,
theirs.
that's what American politics, for presidential politics, is all about. You talk to professionals in the field, and I have close associations with professionals who are in Washington giving me information and lending the big mouth to the big ear, and that's the name of the game. It's power.
Yeah.
And when you're playing for the most powerful position in the world, on this planet, to dramatize it as best I can, anything goes. Anything.
Again, it's scary, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Speaking about anything, in tonight's Globe, Gary Wills, one of the better writers who contributes once in a while to the Boston Globe, writes about an evangelical president. We've been talking about that for a while. He said it's a sure thing. Some people talk a little fearfully, he writes, about a Carter onslaught of religiosity. They do not hold his beliefs against him. They just wonder if he should talk so freely and often about such intimate things. They do not understand that this witnessing style is part of evangelical belief. I have great sympathy with evangelism. It supplies an element of Christianity clearly present in the Bible and clearly lacking in some churches, including mine, writes Gary Wills. An element of open and shared spiritual rejoicing. But even so, I sometimes find myself ill at ease with the simpler proclamations of that joy. I understand why people think it a little freaky or flaky for a serious politician to go around saying things like this, quote, I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't call upon God. In my own experience, there came a time when they had developed a new relationship with God, and it grew out of need. So, yes, I have had an experience that could be described as born again, unquote. Asked whether he prayed over the decision to run for president, the candidate answered, yes, I did seek God. Asked whether there were any notable answers to his prayers, he said, quote, there have been so many and some momentous ones, unquote. He said there was a spiritual revival going on in this land. Wouldn't you wonder about such overt piety in a president? Is it any surprise that those less fervid or effusive hang back a little from the Carter candidacy? Only the words were not Carter's. I've been cheating. Been quoting Ronald Reagan from a talk show interview with George Otis of Van Nuys, California. Van Nuys. Not only does Reagan maintain that he is a born-again evangelical, he applies his religion directly to politics in a way that Carter never does, saying that he would use his office to promote laws against pornography and abortion, to maintain laws against homosexuality. Reagan said he would veto measures meant to legalize immorality. I've always believed that the body of man-made law must be founded upon the higher natural law. You can make immorality legal, but you cannot make it moral. Nor is Reagan's fervor a new gimmick. Reagan has an evangelical minister, an ex-All-American who has long vouched for his spiritual aspirations. President Ford, too, has an evangelical friend and mentor, Billy Zioli. Representative Ford was an active part of the prayer circuit on Capitol Hill, which is evangelical in inspiration. Ford has addressed just about every large evangelical association that was meeting this year. He likes to remind them of his son in divinity school. So those upset by Carter's religion should steel themselves with this reflection. We are going to have an evangelical president inaugurated in 1977, no matter which of the three remaining candidates wins the November election. That's Gary Wills, syndicated columnist in today's Globe. Hello.
Hi. That was excellent, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up the two-party system again. I've heard it twice now tonight, and I'd just like to ask you a couple questions. First, you seem to be against going to more than two parties, but it would seem as though, lately at least, the candidates have been going very much toward the middle, especially in presidential elections. you say that the party is made up of all kinds, which is not what a party is supposed to be. It is supposed to be a unified organization. And if you had more than two, you could have these unified organizations. The reason McGovern didn't make it in 72 was because the party was so disorganized, because everyone who didn't make it felt like they got the shaft, and therefore voted against him or didn't endorse him, which is possible. But I would say that, as Wallace has shown, a third party can be a powerful tool.
Well, it can be that, but how would you like to have a president of the United States who didn't command a majority of the vote?
I wouldn't like that. What I would like is a preferential vote, which is what we should have had when Wallace was running. Because if we had a preferential vote, those who voted for Wallace would have also put down the second choice, which would then have been either Nixon or Humphrey in 68 and or McGovern in 72, and at least then the president would have the preference of the majority, as is done in other countries such as France.
Yep.
Now that would seem to be where we should go, because as we saw this year, the candidates running for president in the primaries in the Democratic Party were not really trying that hard to create disunity in the party. Therefore, they didn't bring out many bad points of Carter. I kind of feel that in the general election, the Republicans will bring out some bad things, and it is possible that if the people had known during the primaries these facts, possibly of Carter's governorship, whatever, his term, they might have voted differently. And it might be a good idea in the future to have more than two parties, so that another party on the left, we could also have running Jackson or someone else who could get the money, get the backing of the people.
Well, how do you think that functions in New York? You have the Liberal Party, you have the Conservative Party, and you have the Democrats and Republicans.
I'm not familiar with it. I'm not from the area.
In New York State, they have that.
Yes, I knew they had it, but I don't know how it's working.
Okay, that's very interesting. I thank you very much for it. 254-5678. It's 1124 BZ Radio Friday night. Hello.
Hi, Jerry. How are you?
Good.
I enjoyed that article you read a moment ago in reference to the evangelical quality of these candidates.
Well, not only quality, but that's it.
But that's mainly what I wanted to talk to you about. I haven't heard too much. I haven't listened for a while, and I was interested in asking you about Ronald Reagan. It seems that a lot of people have already taken for granted that Ford's got the nomination wrapped up, but I don't see that he has, really. And I wanted to ask you, what kind of a person do you think Ronald Reagan is? I'm pretty familiar with Carter and Ford, but I haven't heard that much in the press about Reagan.
Why not?
I
say there's plenty written about him, plenty of talk about him, plenty of press about him. Certainly he's gotten a great deal of press, and I don't think anybody's saying that Ford's got it wrapped up except Ford.
I don't know. I just got the impression that a lot of people, political candidates on both sides, seem to insinuate that Ford's got it all wrapped up.
Well, I think the Ford people are saying we've got it wrapped up because they want to assume an affirmative stance as they come closer to Kansas City and get the uncommitted delegates into a position whereby they're going to be voting on the first ballot. There are some problems with respect to procedure at the Republican convention where some of the delegations could abstain from voting on the first time around, and that could bode ill for the President of the United States. So I think what they're trying to do is gain some momentum toward these uncommitted delegates in the last weeks before the convention to really wrap it up. I don't think it's wrapped up, though. Nevertheless, about Mr. Reagan, I don't think he's a majority candidate in the United States myself.
These issues he's expounded on in the primaries, does he tend to mean what he says, or is he, like all candidates, use politically explosive issues to get votes, or does he tend to stick with what he mentioned?
Well, I think he knows his constituency, who the folks are who pound the table along with him, and he does utter a lot of things over and over again, and the folks on the right wing of the Republican Party seem to react to what he has to say. He has solidified that branch of the Republican Party with these issues. If he stays with those issues, with respect to Panama and Angola and all the other things they'll stuff down his throat if he is the candidate, he's got to be a big loser. He's just got to be a big loser because people in the big electoral states simply are not going to vote for him. They'll be afraid of him just like they were afraid of Barry Goldwater.
I don't know. The way I viewed it, I felt that he would be a stronger candidate than Ford, just for the simple reason that he does take aggressive stands on the issues, whereas Ford always mumbles and plays both sides against the middle. And it seems to me that Reagan could attack Carter much stronger than Ford could.
Well, maybe he can in his manner and style, but the president, in his couple of years in office, has been a conservative president. He has undoubtedly vetoed many bills. I think he has done what Jerry Ford would have done if he was president for 4 years. I think his record is clear as to what he is, who he is, and what he's done. He'll have to run on that record, but Reagan is he gets that emotion. He hits at emotional issues. The business of the Panama Canal is highly emotional. Putting God back into the schools, that's highly emotional. Flexing their muscles at countries like Angola is highly emotional. I don't think that sort of stuff washes with the American people in a broad election. Certainly not 51% of them, anyway.
Jerry, can I ask you something else?
Yeah?
What kind of a job did Reagan do in California as governor for 8 years?
Well, the people have mixed emotions about him, like any politician. 50 people will tell you one thing, 50 people will tell you something else. But they said he was lazy. He wasn't a hard worker, some people say. He did reform the welfare situation there. However, state taxes did go up. There are mixed attitudes about Ronald Reagan. He is a right-wing Republican, and that is not where you can win in elections. You have to be somewhere in the center. That's where Jimmy Carter positioned himself, tried to position himself in the center somewhere to appeal to Democrats and Republicans and independents alike. And that's where candidates have to position themselves in order to win. You can't win in New York being Ronald Reagan, or Massachusetts, or Michigan, or Indiana, or Ohio, or Illinois, where all the big electoral votes are. Pennsylvania, New Jersey. You can't win in the border states in Texas.
What kind of a president, Jerry, do you think Reagan would be?
Well, I don't even care to think about it.
You think he's that bad?
Well, it's not for me. He's not for me. He's not for me, I'll tell you that.
Would you prefer him to Carter, though?
Well, that's not fair. That's not fair. I have to give that some very serious thought. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. The Spirit of New England, WBZ, Boston, Group W, Westinghouse Broadcasting. Larry Glick is coming along, interviewing tonight the senator from the 37th District, Roger Krillstein. Roger Krillstein will be interviewed tonight from a phone booth in New Orleans, Louisiana. Is that right? Right outside. No, it's Montreal, Canada. I'm sorry. Montreal, Canada. He'll be talking to he'll be talking to a broad jumper in somebody from the Olympics. Oh, what? Hey, that ought to be interesting. Somebody who didn't broad jump in the Olympics. I say. This guy just wanders the streets. I say. Well, he'll talk to him. Glick will talk to him, folks. And if he can't get him, he'll get Georgie Jessel. I mean, that's not a bad replacement, right? Or Karen Valentine. Somebody like that. Homeowner's Bulletin. Is your home a hot box in the warm weather? Would you like to make your home 10 degrees cooler right now? Plus never having to paint again. Plus, and get this, a whopping 20% discount on vinyl grain siding. But you have to act right now because Eastern Remodeling Company of Newton has just purchased a trailer load of vinyl grain siding at reduced prices and wants to pass on these huge savings to homeowners who can fix up their homes right now. You can save hundreds of dollars by acting right now. Budget terms available, nothing to pay till 2 months after the job is done. It's a fantastic offer by Eastern Remodeling of Newton. You save the salesman's commission of 20% now and never have to paint again. Now you decide for yourself. Beat the rush, save hundreds of dollars. Vinyl grain siding is the only siding with a 30-year non-prorated, factory-free replacement of materials and labor warranty, different from all other siding materials. Call now. Collect 965-1922 for a free home demonstration. 965-1922. This offer is good within 60 miles of Boston. Call collect 965-1922.
There is a place where goodness abides, where heritage and tradition, trust and faith are still cherished, where man does for his neighbors as he would for himself, where pride in quality workmanship is a way of life. This place is the fertile farms and freshwater streams of Pennsylvania Dutch country, where people still rise early to feed the chickens, tend the stock, and work the land the same honest way they've known for generations. This place is where we raise juicy, tender chickens for Empire Kosher Poultry, where the best eggs are selected for hatching, where chicks grow plump on special feeds, and where good neighbors come to process clean, wholesome, quality Empire Kosher Poultry for America's table. A bicentennial salute to Pennsylvania Dutch country and to people of good faith everywhere. From Empire Kosher Poultry, Bird in Hand and Mifflintown, Pennsylvania.
Hello, this is Dave Leonard. If you tune to WBZ to hear me in the morning, you'll notice my voice has changed. In fact, it'll have changed right into the voice of Bob Rawley, because the Bob Rawley Show now comes right after Carl D'Souza and the Morning Team. And what's to become of Dave Maynard, you ask? Well, I'll be following Bob every weekday with more music and the afternoon team. So tune in, get to know Bob Rawley, and be sure to stick around for my show. I think you'll be very pleased with what you hear.
We please all.